Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Denver, Colorado. I'm so glad you could join me today. I have a pretty little card for you. I could hardly wait to get my hands on working with some of the new material out of the new catalog. So I've started with the penned, what's it called again? I have to learn all the new names. The hand penned suite, and using a punch also that's new. And I also want to announce that on Thursday, the 15th of April, my team is ready to do its second blog hop. So go to my website, my blog, www.ingenuity.com, and my card will be up, plus the links to get to all of the people in my team that are participating. Last month we had 4 people participating, and I think we have 6 or 7 this time, so it'll be fun to see what everybody did. And we were working with the hydrangea suite, so lots of fresh new ideas for you. All right, let's just get started. Okay, here is my card, and I've used some of the beautiful designer series paper from the hand-penned suite, hand-penned designer series paper, and I have used this paper, which has this, I'm so sad to turn it over and use this, but I love this yellow background, and I have used the other side of that very same paper for some of the flowers on the front here. So I can tell I'm going to go through a lot of this DSP. I made this a feel better. I'll show you the stamp sets that I used. I used this one, Flowers of Friendship, and I used these 2 flowers and these 2 leaves, and then this punch, because you can cut out those flowers and leaves with the punch. So I used that for my flowers and leaves, and then I used the sentiment from the hand penned, and I could have used one of these clusters of flowers, but I was so enjoying the idea of using a punch. I used this sentiment that says, "Feel better, friend." Now, this card could say thanks, it could say congratulations, it could say happy birthday, it could say just about anything, but I'm always in need of a feel better card for some of my folks. So that's what we're going to do. And what it takes to make this card is I have a base of Whisper White, thick Whisper White, that is 8.5 by 5.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4. Then I have this piece of designer series paper cut at 4 by 5 1/4 for the front of the card. Then I have this piece of designer series paper, and I'm not even sure that's exactly the same pattern. In fact, I'm sure it's not, but it's one of the others in there. And this one had a little bit more of the yellow and the green. That's why I picked this one. And this is 2 inches by 4 inches. Then I have a matting piece, and I decided to do it a little differently on this one because I love this yellow behind it, but you couldn't really see the pattern. So I made this one 2.5 by 4.5, and then the matting behind that out of the soft succulent, I think it is called. Let's see. What is it called? Yes, soft succulent. And it is 2 3/4 by 4 3/4 to create the mat around there. Then for the inside of the card, this says it coordinates with Daffodil Delight, but the Daffodil Delight seemed awfully intense for the color of the flowers inside. So I used So Saffron. So my piece of So Saffron for the inside is 4 by 5 1/4. I have a piece of white, cut 3 3/4 by 5. I have a 1/2 inch strip by 5 inches to go on the inside. And then on this one, I did cut my flowers out of Daffodil Delight. And this time I thought I would cut my flowers out of this Designer Series paper. Since I'd already blown the whole page of Designer Series paper, I decided to make my flowers out of that as well. I made my leaves on the soft succulent, and I used from Ornate Frames this little frame here, and I think this is carrying over, but that Feel Better Friend just fit perfectly on this little label. So that's what I used there from Ornate Frames. And then I used some of the pretty ribbon that goes with this in the soft succulent. And on this one, I did use the rhinestones that come for the in colors. They're just so pretty. And I thought this time we have these genial gems, which I think will work with this as well. And I thought I would try these out this time. So that's it. So we'll just go ahead. These little pieces that I've cut here are little handles, and I'll show you how I used them to put my pieces in the punch. In fact, let's go ahead and cut these pieces out using that punch right now. So the very first thing I'm going to do, because when you have a punch that cuts out multiple pieces, it's real easy to stick this in here and end up cutting into the image next to it. And so to avoid that, what I've done is I cut each of my pieces apart. These are the ones I stamped, and I stamped all of these in that soft succulent. I decided that the black was awfully harsh given everything else. So I did these in the soft succulent. And then I made these are just little strips, offcuts. And I know you have a million of them in your stamp room. And you can use these to make a handle to go into your punch so that you're not wasting any additional material. And then you can get your stamped image set in the punch. And as it turns out on these punches, it doesn't matter which way the flower goes, which is lovely. So there's one of those flowers. Now I just take off my handle and attach it to the next one. I just put a little bit of snail on there. And I'm going to go ahead and just cut through these, and I will be back in a flash. Okay, I have now cut out all of my flowers and all of my leaves. So I have 3 leaves and 3 large leaves, 3 small leaves, 3 large flowers, and 3 small flowers. And we have our sentiment here. Now I am using the soft succulent ink, and I am going to use soft succulent pen. Let's start by starting to assemble some of these pieces. I'm going to move these pieces all up here, and I'm going to add my seal to the top piece for the front of the card. And here is this beautiful paper in that soft yellow. Just such a pretty color. And there we go. That's on there. Now these 3 pieces can be put together. Oh darn. I did that before I got my ribbon on. Well, we'll just do the ribbon differently on this one. Okay, so this one is going to go on here. centered, and that's a little bit different than the other one just because I wanted to see a little bit more of that pretty yellow paper. And so I'm going to add my seal to the back of this one and add it to my soft succulent. And then this piece went down here, and it went without any dimensionals. I think it's time for me to change my blade and my trimmer. And so with this one going here, it's going to, you can see it's going to fill up more of the front of the card this way. And so I think what I'm going to do is put my ribbon, since I missed my opportunity to put my ribbon along this way, I think what I'm going to do is just put it along here on my piece that's going to go on the card. So I'm just going to cut a little piece of that and add some snail to the back of this so that I can anchor my ribbon on the back side here, and I'm going just along the edge of this pattern paper. Now let's see, that's not anchoring down the way I want. There we go. All right, and that's going to go just along the edge of the paper here, and I'm going to secure that on the back. There, I think that'll be just fine. Now, I'm going to go ahead and add some more seal to the back of this and set that in place on my card here. Just a little bit to the left. I don't want it centered. And then I need a small bow to go on my card. So I'll go ahead and get that tied. And I don't want it to be very big, just a pretty small little bow and short tails. And that's all ready to go on my card as well. And I'm going to need one more length of the ribbon to go on there. So I'm going to trim that off and then cut one more piece of the ribbon. Okay, I'm going to show you exactly what I did to put my flowers together. And I used a foam mat, and I used the back of an old pokey tool, but you could use the back of anything. This is my tweezers, and what I'm doing is just adding some dimension to the back of the flowers. And this is designer series paper, so it's going to, the fibers are going to break down really fast. And then on the front, I'm just going to come through and give that a little poke. And I'm going to do the same on all of these. I'll show you one more here with one of the small ones. And I think I am going to use the back of my pokey tool, the back of a pen, the back of a paintbrush. There's all kinds of things that'll work for this. And I'm just going to articulate these flowers a bit here and then turn them over and give them a poke in the middle. And they'll be all ready to go. There we go. And just like that. I like the idea of doing it on the designer series paper because it gave a little bit of pattern to these flowers. I did it also on a couple of the leaves there. What I used to put these flowers together was glue dots. because I didn't want to use a dimensional. I didn't want that much height, but I didn't want it flat either. So I used a dimensional, kind of folded over on itself in quarters, and sat that in the middle of the flower, and then put this other little flower on here like that, so that it was offset. So I'm going to do that to all of these. And there we've got our flowers all ready to go. I put my ribbon on here so I can set my flowers right down here. I think setting them roughly in the same places that I did the other one is perfectly fine. And I did use a dimensional on the back of the flowers. And see how much softer that flower looks by comparison to the one that I used the black on. I think I'm really liking this much softer look. Okay, so there we go. Use my dimensional there and put that right down here. Now then, on the leaves, since I have put a little bit of dimension on a couple of these leaves, I'm going to go ahead and put a mini dimensional on the back to give it more of a raised profile. And then I'm going to use a smaller one, and I'm just going to add a little bit of snail to the back of it. And lay that one more flat down on the flower. And then I think this one's the one to get a dimensional. And I'm not going to raise the ones on the insides at all. Maybe underneath here, and one more small one to fit right underneath here. And I purposely put the flower on the ribbon so that it would help hold the ribbon in place on the front. There we go. Now we can decide here if I'm going to use these genial gems, and I think I will. I think these little ones will work just perfectly by putting a gem on the inside of each of those flowers. There, isn't that pretty? Now then, I have my sentiment, and I did use a dauber with my soft succulent ink, and this still has a bit of ink on it, and I don't want a lot on the edges, mostly just enough to create a little bit of contrast for the sentiment against all of that yellow. And there we go, just like that. And I'm going to put one dimensional on the back of that one, right there, and set that right about there. Now, I have my flowers down quite a bit lower on this one, so I may have to put my bow up here on the top, and I think that'll work out just fine. So I'm going to use a glue dot for that and set my bow right up here in this corner. If that feels like too much for you, you can always just make a knot bow or not put any bow on it at all. So now I'm going to come back here and use another one of these green gems right here on my sentiment. I think I'm going to put it on this side on this one. And there we go. That is the front of our card done. Isn't that pretty? Oh my gosh, I just love this whole idea of all of these flowers. It's just great. All right, now let's concentrate on the inside. And I'm going to go ahead and put my pieces together. Oh, out of glue. Well, I've got my other tape runner here. I can do that. And get this one placed on here. Get my piece of yellow to bring the outside to the inside. Right there, so that it goes from the top to the bottom of the white, and then this ribbon can go all the way around the whole thing. So I will add some snail at the top and the bottom, and maybe just one dab in the middle to help hold it straight. And we'll get that set here on our card. Oops, it looks like I need a little bit more at the top. So like that. And then secure this ribbon as soon as I've got it centered on my strip. That strip could be wider. It might be more attractive, I'm not sure. Centered on there. There we go. And I thought, while this was articulated, I'm just going to add a little bit of snail to the back of it, and I'm going to put it down here flat. Now, what I did do was I used my soft succulent and my leaves and put my flower down here so I could see where it was going to go, and I added a leaf up here, and I added a leaf down here. Oh gosh, now for sure I'm going to have to cover that. And then another leaf, maybe a little bit larger one, right in here. There we go. Then I've got my glue on the back of this. And you know, just to be safe, I think I'm going to put a glue dot on that. And just add a glue dot and set that flower right down in here. Then I used my marker for the soft succulent on there. And then I used my Wink of Stella to give the center of that flower just a little bit of sparkle so that it kind of matches the one on the outside. And then I have my two leaves here, which I'm going to add some adhesive to, and I'm going to add these leaves here to give some additional interest. And that one I'm going to have to go across the ribbon. There isn't that pretty? Now then, this whole assembly is ready to go on the inside of my card. So I'm going to add my snail to the inside and put this in here. And there we go. We got a pretty little card, and that is my project for the day. Now, we could make this a little bit different by going with, say, the color that's represented, the greens in here, is garden green. If you wanted a little bit more not as dark as the black, but a little darker than this. You could go with the garden green and it would give you a little bit more vibrant green. But I like it just the way it is. There we go. There is my project for the day. Thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel today. I do so appreciate it. I'm having such a good time with starting to mess with the new products. And what I'm going to try and do is go through and make one project using each of the stamp and die sets that I've been given, or the punches, and get through as many of them as I can in the next couple of weeks. Again, that's it for me. This is April, and my prize draw for the month of April is the $60 shopping spree on me. And you can put yourself in the drawing by putting an order of any size on my store, lbedinger.stampinup.net, or you can get to it through my blog, www.ingenuity.com. Again, thanks for stopping by, and I'll be back soon with more cards, more projects, and more tips. Bye!